Our opening thought is a snippet from the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Our next reading comes from Paul Farmer in his writing, Pathologies of Power. Human rights violations are not accidents. They are not random in distribution or effect. Rights violations are, rather, symptoms of deeper pathologies of power and are linked intimately to the social conditions that so often determine who will suffer abuse and who will be shielded from harm. Our next reading comes from Eleanor Roosevelt. Where do universal human rights begin? Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places, close to home. So close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood they live in, the school or college they attend, the factory, farm, or office where they work. Such are the places where every person seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world. Better make sure I have things in order up here. I was told that the topic today looks like a pulpit-pounding topic, so make sure that everything's out of the way. We hear a lot about rights granted by the United States Constitution. But today I want to discuss something that's even more fundamental than our constitutionally guaranteed rights. And that is our universal human rights. Our universal human rights that are shared by every person on earth and ought to be respected by all persons, whether one is a citizen of the United States or not. I deeply appreciate one thing about the philosopher Immanuel Kant. I have a lot of disagreements with the philosopher Immanuel Kant, but one thing I deeply appreciate is his moral claim that we have duties in relation to one another based on our experience that all persons have inherent worth, that all persons have dignity that ought to be respected by all other persons, that we should treat each other as ends and never as means only. It was this insight that became the core principle of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I would also expand that this sense of duty that was put forward in that Declaration of Human Rights ought also to include moral obligations in relation to non-human animals as well. But today I'm focusing on human rights. Immanuel Kant rightly recognized that the moral use of freedom requires responsibility to other persons. He understood that we have a duty to treat persons as ends and never as means only. In a world in which we often treat so many persons as objects, so many persons as things for us to use, we have a great deal to learn from Immanuel Kant's view that we have a moral duty to always treat each other as persons. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was published and ratified in 19 1948. And if you have your reading glasses on, you can see a summary of each of those rights, or maybe a magnifying glass. You can see a summary of each of those rights on the bulletin for today. This declaration was drafted by a United Nations committee that was chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt. The declaration claimed that human rights are based on the recognition of inherent dignity and worth of human persons. Human rights are seen as the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. In 1948, the world had just witnessed the evil that occurs when there is disregard for human rights. There was general agreement that there was a need for rights to be protected by the rule of law, that there should be equal rights for all persons, and that rights are linked to freedoms. Those points of general agreement were laid out in the preamble of the Declaration of Human Rights. The United States ratified the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. But we are currently so grossly out of step with its spirit and letter as to make our ratification of the document seem to be a total sham. The rights that the Declaration upholds are not being respected by the government of the United States. We have lost our way. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 was written and ratified with the intention of curbing the kind of blatant disrespect of human rights that we are currently witnessing here in the United States. Over the past week, I took the time to reread the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which are a little bit more involved than the summary that you see on the bulletin. I reread these 30 articles to see just how badly the United States is currently out of compliance with the key provisions of the Declaration. And it was shocking to see that not only are we not in compliance with some of the articles, but we are actually out of compliance with the majority of the articles in the Declaration. Not only that, but the rhetoric and actions of our current regime are antithetical to the spirit of the Declaration as a whole. Given that the leadership of the United States took a significant role in drafting and ratifying the Declaration in 1948, it is tragic to see us moving further and further away from its aspirations of preserving human rights for all persons, regardless of their social or national origin. Let that sink in, regardless of their social or national origin. Today, I'm highlighting the articles of the Declaration that see that the United States is most clearly violating. I'm highlighting those articles that I think we're most clearly, most egregiously violating here in the United States. The Declaration of Human Rights calls for no one to, quote, be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Article 5. It proclaims that everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Article 6. And that, quote, all are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. Article 7. Is the United States currently upholding these human rights?
No.
No, we are not. The Declaration asserts that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile, Article 9, and that everyone is entitled to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal, Article 10. Is the United States upholding these human rights?
No.
Article 12 asserts that no one should be subjected to arbitrary interference with their privacy, family, home, or correspondence. Article 13 calls for the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Article 14 asserts the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Is the United States upholding these human rights?
No.
Article 18 declares that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And Article 19 declares that everyone has the right to freedom and expression. Article 20 proclaims the right to freedom of peaceful assembly. Is the United States upholding these rights?
No.
Article 23 declares the rights of equal pay for equal work, the right of a living wage, the right to form and join unions. Article 25 declares the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of persons and of their family. Article 26 declares that everyone has a right to education. Article 27 declares that we all have the right to freely participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Is the United States upholding these human rights?
No.
You're right. In stark juxtaposition to the principles of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the current presidential executive orders and actions of the United States represent a declaration through word and deed of anti-human rights. Tragically, as has often been the case throughout history, much of Christianity, the dominant religion in our culture, is being co-opted by those who are ignoring and trampling on the human rights of others, in direct opposition to the love and justice espoused by Jesus in the Gospels. By ignoring the rights of all persons guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, we are breaking our promise to ourselves. By ignoring the rights of all persons expressed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we are breaking our promise to the world. Our work today is the work of restoring our promises to guarantee and to protect human rights of all persons. And our work today is to repair the systems that are not properly upholding these rights. This is our sacred work. This is our sacred task. Our benediction comes to us from Jim McGaw. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace seeking justice. I mean go in peace committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace.